Sitting right next to Gene.
All right. We're live on the recording, by the way. So.
Okay. Sounds good.
Hear you on Ring Central.
I got a bunch of
Do we have a chairman?
names underneath it.
Yeah, we can't hear you though.
We're making sure we got Dean connected here. He's got video, no audio.
First join the meeting, you have to click connect to audio. You're not connected to the audio. You might need to leave the meeting, come back in and click join audio.
Or open it up and just type Ring Central.
Well, you should be able to just click on the link that you found. Tom says it's the best place. Tom said he has to actually type it in.
That's the only thing I said, I want to do is call one person, type it in, and then get it out. Can you just close out and recall the number on Ring Central? Then it'll ask for that code, and punch that code in, that's typically all I do.
You can just call him.
Yeah, I've never put that on the computer, Dean, I always just call it on the phone.
Do you want to just stay on Tom's phone?
Well, let me get my wife in here so somebody else might email.
Let's keep being on the until we figure it out.
Can you bring the microphone over to the cell phone? So we pick up Dean.
Might be too loud. I gotta find email. I gotta find it.
All right. It should pick them up in there. It was a nice one. I think it was very last week. It worked so nice.
Do we have Dean on loud and clear now?
Dean, how's it going?
What's the matter?
There.
He's on Tom's cell phone,
Oh, he is.
correct?
She found the email. You'll need a new app to open this Zoom link.
Just do that.
Dean, why don't we just keep you on the phone, on Tom's phone? We can hear you.
Oh, I won't be able to see anybody.
That's okay.
For some of us, that's the benefit.
Can I get undressed then?
Yeah, we don't need to know about that. You do as you please, just don't tell us what you're doing.
Dean, do you have a copy of the agenda though?
Oh, yeah, I printed it all
Okay.
out.
Do we have Matt Nelson call?
No.
It'll work.
No, I just want to know what we're talking about.
And Michael, are we recording?
It recorded. I can hear you still.
Okay, Dean, so whenever you are ready to call the meeting to order.
Okay, let's call the meeting to order and have the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it
And to the republic for which it stands, one
stands,
nation,
indivisible,
indivisible, with
justice for all.
liberty and justice for all.
Did everybody get a copy of the agenda?
Yes.
So any questions about that, or should we just approve it?
Dean, I will need you to take attendance very quickly just because I'm not sure who's all on Ring Central.
Well, hang on a second here. We're just gonna do it by phone. It worked pretty good last time, but not this time. So I don't know if I can remember everybody's name.
Just guess.
We have someone called Galaxy S9 Plus. Actually, that might be me. Never mind, that's me. And we have Tim, we have Laura, Larry, and then 2711622.
That's me, Rich.
That's Rich. And then in person, we have Tony Huff, Howard Brinkman, Tom Hattlestead, Amy Newsom, Michael Kudrowski, and Kurt Mick.
Okay. So then I guess the first item on the agenda now would be the public hearing for the sale of the land, the old nickel property.
So we have to close the regular meeting and open up the public hearing.
All those in favor of that, signify.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, any opposed? We'll close the meeting and open up the public hearing. I'm sure you've all read the letter from Alex, Tim, and Spencer.
If not, I have a copy of it here if anybody'd like to see it. And we have no other members of the public present, and I received no other contact by phone or email besides the letter that was included in your packet.
Is Tony aware of the letter?
Yes, Tony is aware of the letter.
Okay.
Amy, did you get anything, Dave?
Does he have any comments about it?
Why don't you come up closer so they can hear you? And speak loudly, please.
I will be the first to admit I've had struggles with the company when I first started. I made my fair share of mistakes, but I'm pounding through them. It is what it is, and you learn from your mistakes. I don't see, if anybody has any questions, you can feel free to ask me whatever you would like to know. I'm an open book.
Well, we brought this up at the last meeting. We want to make sure that you're going to be able to finance your endeavor here.
Yeah, that on that end of it, I'm working with Dave Sywick back and forth. I'm doing things for him. He's gonna supply the material. I asked him a week ago to get Amy a letter, and I asked him again the other day when Amy said to do that, and he said he was going to do that. So I don't know why we haven't gotten that yet. Dave's usually not that kind of person. He's usually on top of things. But that's what I'm working with on that. As far as that goes, I'm a man of my words. When I say that's when it's gonna be done, it's when it's gonna be done. Oh, if I need money, I have a place where I can go get money to finance the building.
Tony, do you have currently, do you have any judgments against you?
Everything should be taken care of besides one. And I'm working on that one right now.
Besides what?
I said, there's one that's left and we are working on that one right now.
What is that?
It's Tolano equipment. They're just getting everything, we're trying to get the bill straight and square to where it needs to be, and I'm gonna pay for it.
Anybody else have any questions?
How big is that one?
What's that?
How big is that one?
I was like 22,000 when it's all gonna be set up down. I grew too big too fast when I first started the company, and it caught up to me with things not getting done in an orderly fashion, people not doing their job correctly, and me having to fix things and go back, things taking longer, me learning the bidding process. So it was a learning curve, and I got caught up in it. I didn't run away from it. Just take it on the chin, fix it, and continue on with my business. That's why I'm here today.
What kind of a letter was we need from Dave Sadler?
Something that explains that he would be providing funding for that building.
But it has to be more than I support the project. It has to have some teeth in it.
Correct.
I already got 20,000 credit with Dave down there on that aspect of it, and whatever else we're gonna do out here with the next project.
And I do believe it would be nice if we had him here or a letter. You know, because I think all of us here are pro-business. You know, but on the other hand, we have to represent the taxpayers too. We can't just have like a handshake deal, or I don't think. I mean, that's why that letter or him here would have helped.
Anyone else
No.
online have a comment?
Well, I just have a comment that if there is a judgment, that part of our agreement should say that that judgment has to be released before any title transfer takes place. Otherwise, we inherit the judgment.
Larry, that was you, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Can you just identify yourself when you speak?
I will.
Thank you.
Well, can we set that up in the contract with him? Have it straightened up, have a letter from Sauer before we go ahead with this? Or
Yes.
if tonight we say yes, then it's kind of.
You guys can add whatever you want to that
I-
purchase agreement.
I would think that if we were to make a motion to approve the purchase agreement tonight, we would need those items with a letter from Silent stating he is going to give Tony the funds to build this building, and along with the judgment, that if it has to be correct. Can you do that? But I think that even if we were to make a motion and approve it, of course, it would be contingent on it. And nothing would transfer until those two stipulations are taken care of. Does that make sense, Larry?
Larry Sorensen, yes. That would, I think, I'm assuming we're going to be able to discuss the development agreement
Correct. That's
after,
coming up.
after the public hearing. So, I think I have enough information to discuss it anyway. Except I would like to ask Tony, how old is that? How far back does that judgment situation go that you're working on, the 20,000?
It's been a year and a half.
Was there a dispute on the bill, or you just didn't pay it, or what?
No, there was a dispute on it. It was my word against theirs. They weren't backing out the rent of a piece of equipment that I purchased, and they just left it on the bill. And so until we got that hacked out, then I wasn't going to pay it until it was figured out, because it was a lot more than that to begin with.
Larry Sorensen again. I'm assuming, Tony, that we haven't asked you for any financial information like a balance sheet, profit and loss statement, tax returns for the last couple of years. Do you have prepared statements, or do you do it yourself, or who does your taxes?
Yep, I didn't get my taxes done before this COVID-19 stuff shut down all the CPAs, so my last year's stuff is not done until they open back up again. So I do have my so that'd be 18 stuff done.
Okay. Do you have a problem with letting the city of Arlington look at your financials? Your tax returns?
I guess I don't care. It doesn't really matter to me. I would prefer them not to be published anywhere.
I understand. Well, if we were just making you a small revolving loan, we would require it. So, this is a little bit more than just making a revolving loan, so I don't see that there's any reason why we couldn't do this. Usually we just have a committee that looks at it. It's not for public viewing or anything like that, and we don't keep the papers.
Mm-hmm.
But I think Larry Sorensen, I think there's enough questions here that would make us a lot more comfortable if we could see your financials.
Right. And if your question is if I'm making money, the answer is no. But it is what it is.
Can you say that again? Can you say that again?
To answer your question, if we're showing any profit yet, the answer is no. But I think this year's the turning page for that.
Well, I'd be interested in seeing the cash flow that's required to, make the payments that you're going to have to make, plus the real estate taxes and the things that you acquire with buying real estate.
Well, hopefully when it's all said and done, I don't have any payments on the building.
But I don't have any more questions.
So is the lack of a profit, is that because of buying equipment? How long, probably have told us how long have you been in business?
5 years. 2015 I started.
You don't want to make profit.
Just goes out the.
Found that out 1 year.
Anybody else have a comment during the public hearing? If not, I would ask someone to make a motion to close the public hearing.
I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
Okay, this is the version. Motion has been made, seconded to close the public hearing. Any further discussion? Okay, we'll call the motion. All those in favor say aye.
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 Are there any opposed? Okay, we've closed the public hearing. Do we have to reopen the regular meeting?
Correct.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion to reopen the regular meeting.
Larry Sorensen, so moved.
Tim Kleckel, second.
Okay, motion's made second to open the regular meeting. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? The ayes have it. Now we're on to item number 5, I believe.
Correct.
Purchase agreement.
It's Tim Kleckel. Why is there two of them?
One is,
Development.
Oh, I'm sorry. I missed that.
Larry, we see you now.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm sorry. You look good.
It's on, but we can't see her.
So the purchase agreement is where we got him bringing in his paperwork stuff.
Right. Any changes you want to make to the, Attorney Arneson drafted a purchase agreement and a development agreement. Now is your chance. You could approve or deny the one presented in front of you and move it on to council. You can make some changes, approve it and make some changes. You can flat out deny it. So
Should we be discussing this with Tony in the room? This is no longer a public hearing?
he still has a right to be here. It's a public meeting.
Okay,
Be here.
No, you can go now.
Something done.
He's gonna head out.
Thank you, Tony.
thank you, Tony.
Nice, thanks, Tony.
Thank you.
So do we need to really make those changes to the purchase agreement? Wouldn't Ross take care of necessary changes related to financials?
We need to make that recommendation.
Okay,
If you want something added into the purchase agreement, we need to let Ross know.
okay.
Larry Sorensen, I have a question.
Hmm.
You know, in the minutes, it clearly states that the development agreement would include the financing information. And I'm just wondering what happened, you know, why it's not there. Because the development agreement says nothing about, you know, any commitment for financing the building. So,
Ross and I had talked about it, and he said, well, if you have the actual paperwork before you guys approve it, if we have information on his finances, it didn't need to be included in the purchase agreement or development agreement.
well,
But we don't have it.
I personally could not vote to agree to either the purchase agreement or the development agreement until we have the financing picture. Tony's very wide open about it. He basically says he hasn't made a profit. No, I mean, there could be lots of things. There could be a depreciation. He's bought a lot of equipment. You know, I don't know. I really would like to be able to see deeper into his financial picture, and he doesn't seem to be opposed to that.
Larry, I think I'd like to clarify what we'd like in that. Do you want it in the purchase agreement maybe then? And that he provide a copy of his taxes? We need to be specific what we're looking for.
Well, originally, and what the minutes said was that we wanted to see a financial commitment. And I think we talked about a lender, and now I know it sounds like he's talking about some kind of agreement between he and the lumberyard. And, you know, I mean, a letter from the lumberyard doesn't mean anything to me because I don't know anything about the financial standing of the lumberyard. it might be, they might be excellent, but I'd like to see a financial commitment from a lender.
I don't think he has any intention of getting a financial commitment from any lender.
Okay,
I think his
that's
plan
fine. I like Tony, but it makes it difficult for me to vote in favor. But I mean, the city can do what they want, but I wouldn't vote for it.
I think his plan, Larry, is to, this is my assumption, is to do some work for Mr. Sywick in exchange for Mr. Sywick either buying, supplying, or loaning him the money in exchange for the work he's gonna do for him. And I thought he was gonna have that letter from Mr. Sywick. And I guess for me, I would be fine with that as long as we have that letter from Mr. Sywick stating that he is totally backing him financially on the construction of that building. But without that, yeah, then I'm real concerned.
I have the same concerns. And
Well, I think, Larry, again, I think he has to do something about that judgment. We aren't going to want to go into business with him with these, when he has a judgment that's over a year old that hasn't, did he say $20,000?
Correct.
I mean, does he have the capability of settling that judgment, or so that's another reason why it would be good to take a look at his financials. But he can probably tell us whether or not he can settle that judgment or not. I mean,
You
it's
can
one
make
thing
that
to
a
have.
condition as well, that judgment be settled.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think that we'd have to have the condition that the judgment is settled, that his financing or a letter from Mr. Sywick stating he is backing him 100% on the costs of putting the building up.
And it's 2018.
And his 2018 income taxes. I would say if we had those three things, that would maybe cover the bill.
I don't know anything about Sywick. I'm assuming he has, substantial finances, but just to get a letter from somebody saying I'm backing him, that doesn't give you much.
Laura, I heard you pipe in.
Yeah, my concern is that we're not early on in this process. He's had a lot of opportunities to gather what he needs to prove financing and so on and so forth. He's asked Sywick to write a letter or come in, and Sywick's not doing that. My concern is that we're all the way to the public hearing here, and we have no proof at all. So I would find it very difficult to vote in favor of this.
Good point.
I get the feeling from the ones that have spoken that is the idea we table it until Tony brings all this information to us.
I know for me, I'd be more comfortable with that, but I think we give them a deadline.
Oh, I agree.
So just to be clear, we're still sticking with Tony, but we're going to give him a certain period of time to get these three things we want to see.
And I think you have to give them a deadline.
What's our period of time, 10 days?
Yeah.
You should be able to get your income taxes.
Well, even if we would approve all this stuff, you still can't sit back out there until you get that judgment.
Correct.
Reconciled, so it's not like we're delaying anything because he still has stuff to do. I guess I'd like to see the stuff and not put in a passive with the stipulations. I want a business out there, but then I think we have to be smart and represent the taxpayers too. I mean,
Well, we gotta know he has the money available to put the building in. Or we can give him a piece of property and try to get it back in a year and a half now because he never followed through with anything he did maybe because of finances. We don't know that. He spoke from the get-go what a hurry he is, and he wants to get going on this so he can get this construction started so it's done this fall. The only hang up we have is, since one of the earliest meetings, asking about his financing. And to this date, we still haven't seen it. So of course, the concern then is, and I don't want to distrust him, but how many months do we wait for this proof? Every month that goes by, you start questioning, does he have the money?
Right.
That's what I'm saying. Then moving forward, whatever we decide on this, I think we need to look at our policy again and have the financials as part, right up front. So it doesn't get this far and then we're asking about financials. So if somebody does want to buy a piece of property, we know right up front, even before we start the process. So I guess that's what in conjunction with this, I would like us to relook at our policy moving forward. They should have the financials in place before we even start the process.
I agree.
I agree.
This is Ferguson. I'm hearing only half of the discussion. But basically, I'm in agreement that I'm reluctant to sell that land without knowing he's going to be able to build.
I guess I would make a motion that we table Tony's purchase agreement until he has supplied us with his 2018 taxes, proof that he's got financing, and proof that his judgment has been settled. And the time frame would be, I'm not sure what's fair is, 20 days fair?
I would second that. I think 20 days
I think
should be
that's
sufficient.
That would be my motion.
Can you make an motion for the purchase agreement and the development agreement?
I would make a motion for the purchase agreement and the development agreement with Tony to be put on hold until Tony supplies us with his 2018 tax return, satisfies the judgment, and shows us or gives us a letter showing us he has financing in place to construct this building within 20 days.
And I would second that motion.
Any further discussion on that?
One question for Amy. I mean, you're the expert. You think that's, what's your opinion on
I think 20 days is actually a good number because we have somebody else waiting in the wings. And if he can't get this together, then I would like to entertain considering selling it to the next party who did provide some of that financing information already. Because we have to schedule another public hearing if we're going to sell the property to someone else.
I agree with all that. We have to do our due diligence.
We have to do it.
Even though we all want a business out there,
Since we're not, we need a roll call vote for this evening?
No. No.
Okay, then we'll call the question. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carried. We'll delay the sale and development agreement until he's provided us with those important financial documents. Okay, we'll go on to approval of minutes. Any questions on the minutes?
I move for approval of the minutes, Larry Sorensen.
This is Tom Hattlestead, I'll second.
Motion made, seconded to approve the minutes. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carried. Go on to financials. Do we have any money, Amy?
We still have some money, but you will notice a difference that we've recently loaned out $100,000.
I saw 40 of that was to no, not R&R, that was to Scott Equipment,
Correct,
and 60 to Chef Craig.
correct.
Okay. Now, one of them I see, it looks like, am I reading that right? Forgivable after 5 years?
Scott Equipment, correct.
Okay. Is that money from our regular EDA fund?
Yes, that comes out of our EDA fund. That one was approved 2019.
Okay.
So what does that March 20th mean?
That's when their check was cut. That's when they were,
Okay, so it'll be March of 2025.
correct.
Refresh my memory on this Arlington Auto and Farm Supply.
That's Napa.
Napa.
Napa, okay, I thought so.
I'll make a motion to approve the financial report to Michael.
This is Tom, I'll second.
Okay, motion is made second to approve the financial report. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Anybody opposed? Financial report approved. We'll move on to new business. A letter from Ed Johnson.
Everyone have a chance to read the letter from Matt Johnson regarding the project.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yes.
They're done, right?
They're done. I was able to rent that land out to Ken Yar. I had to make a decision quickly to rent that out because it was time to plant the crops. So we rented that out for $200 an acre. That's all he was willing to give us. And he's
Considering the circumstances, I understand it. I think it's better than nothing.
that was the advice I received, is that it was better than nothing.
Agreed.
I'd say good job, Amy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, boy.
So what is the process now? We have to give him his money back.
Correct. It will be recorded. It could have been recorded today or tomorrow that the land is recorded back to us, and Lisa will cut him a $5,000 check back probably it'll be approved on the 18th by council.
And then with property taxes coming up.
We'll have to pay them. If we own the property, then we'll have to pay them.
Could we get a 1-year extension on paying him back his money?
But since we own the property, we have the property taxes, but actually he owned it up. I mean,
I ask about prorating.
Why can't that be prorated?
Same thing goes with Hemp Heaven, the land we sold to Hemp Heaven. That deed was just recorded last week. And I gave them the assessment bill and the property tax bill. They have to pay it. So I guess, yeah.
So it's kind of a wash both ways.
Correct.
To benefit on one and not the other.
But according to the contract that we had, the purchase agreement we had with Matt, he's not liable for if he backed out for any of those costs. Or does Mr. Ross agree with that?
Mhm.
So then I guess we
I
pay.
checked with him about the taxes, correct.
Maybe in the future, that's something we need to write into our agreements. But if they back out,
They pay the
they
taxes.
pay the taxes because, you know, city's hands were tied until, you know, we thought this was going forward and then he backs out. I think he maybe knew long before the total.
What are the taxes out there?
I do not remember, honestly, without looking. I do not remember without pulling the tax statement. I don't want to say.
I guess I would like us at some point to go back to our policy and make some of these tweaks. So I like the policy, but then we're better protected. We're kind of finding out the hard way, but we're trying, which is good.
But now if this land for Tony goes through, and we have this land out here that you just
It's back.
rented, what if that guy from Gaylord wants it? You know, we can make some deal with it.
You have to wait till it's the harvest. So,
Okay. Is that a possibility?
It's up to the EDA. You can discuss that, offering it to him.
Well, if anything that's damaged, he would have to reimburse the farmer.
Correct.
So I don't think that's a, you know, that's not a big problem.
Well, if we got two people looking at land, that'd be an option, you know.
Then we have to figure out is that the type of business we want on that.
that is our last.
Fairgrounds, that's like the perfect spot for either person. Is that on the corner? Is that the best guy?
That's my concern, that's our last piece of property. And maybe a little bit better piece of property sitting on the highway. And not that you want to get fussy of what goes in there because it might sit there, it might sit for 10 more years.
His business would have worked perfect, I think, out there with the design.
But that's over.
I don't think they can hear that.
But now
And move
getting
that to
back
Kurt.
to, with the land, now this piece off by the fairgrounds will be farmed and all that. My phone died.
No, we're moving it to me
Oh, my phone is low.
to pick it up. You get charged.
That's correct. I mean, it's too late now for something to plant it.
You're talking the nickel farm.
Yeah.
Well, we do have another option if Tony doesn't work out, correct?
Correct.
I mean, another person that's,
Interested.
and that person does have the financing, correct?
They provided me with proof that they had money.
I think that the ball is in Tony's court, as it's been for the last few months, and in 20 days from now, if he doesn't come up with what we need, I guess we have the right to move forward to the next buyer.
Well, remember, Roger Horseman said that he would be glad to provide information regarding the fact that he has the cash available. So we want to make sure we ask him for that up front, so we don't run into the same issue.
What Horseman has provided so far, I want you guys to know because maybe you'd like different information. He provided me with a snapshot of his bank account showing he has about $170,000 in his bank account, enough to build his building. Would you like something else from him?
Is that checking or savings?
I think it's his checking account.
I guess one concern I have is who carries $170,000 in their check and why is that money invested? That's
I don't know what his finances are,
Well,
that much. I don't know what the guy does.
He's a top-notch landscaper.
well, I think it would be reasonable for us to ask him for the same thing we're asking from Tony. copy of this, maybe the last 2 years' tax returns or something like that, just to give us an idea on a balance sheet, profit and loss statement. I don't know, that money probably could have come from somewhere other than operations, but, and I also think we could ask him to get us a verification of deposit from his bank stating that those funds are there. But anyway, we might be a little premature on that. We've got 20 days to have Tony come up with this.
I could ask for a copy of Justin Horstman's 2018 taxes. I hate asking different businesses for different documentation. I would feel better if we're gonna ask one for this, we should ask the same thing of whoever we're selling it to, not different strokes for different folks.
Well, but isn't that the same as what we're asking Tony for?
Not a profit and loss. We didn't say profit and loss in that motion. There was no motion for profit and loss. It was for 2018 taxes.
Well, if you get his 2018 business taxes, you will have the profit and
Well,
loss.
no.
That'll be part of it.
Yeah, his taxes will show whether we made a loss month.
So I could ask Horstman for that. And I'm sure he would give me a copy of that already so that we could have that ready to go.
Yeah.
Good.
All right, Bergerson here. I'm just curious, what we ask Matt Nelson, or not Matt Nelson?
You're gonna have to.
Just turn it up.
Hit the side button.
What we ask for proof from Matt Johnson from Security House?
One more time, Dean, what did you say?
Have we ever sold any property in the past? If so, what kinds of requests did we make of the buyers?
We just sold the Hemp Heaven. We didn't ask for any financial information for them. When we sold the Sidori property, we did not ask for financial information on them. It was more contingent on them building, not on them having financing.
So now all of a sudden we're getting really picky about stuff.
We're looking at it more like a revolving loan, issuing a revolving loan.
No, the one problem with that, the other people that have these judgments out on either.
As far as we know.
We don't know about that.
We never checked them to see if they had judgment.
We
don't know.
That is so totally different because there's no, that access road, getting access is probably more important than anything. But that's why I'm saying I think we need to go back because now we'll have the Siduri Hobbs property, maybe this nickel property. I think we need to go back and maybe toughen up our.
Be a little more thorough.
Yeah.
So just back, because we kind of jumped away from this. Howard had talked about selling the hotel property, what was the Siduri Hops project, to Horstman. Kurt voiced some concerns. I'd like to hear.
Well, I'm not totally against it. I'm just saying that
I'd like to hear what everybody on the Ring Central thinks about it.
I'm not sure what type of a building Horstman is thinking of putting up, but if it's a nice looking building and if there's not going to be scattered equipment showing all over the place, I guess I wouldn't be against it, but that's a pretty good corner for people to judge Arlington by when they're coming into town from the west. So we got to be careful about a Mike Nyson type situation as you go into Gaylord.
Right.
I guess that was my point also, or what I was trying to say.
Well, to clarify my point, Larry Sorensen, when Mr. Horstman was in front of us that night, he stated, "I have the cash," and I simply asked him, I said, "Well, that could be verified," and he said yes. So that was a result of just the question and answer session. But I do think we have we have a problem in terms of what we want to ask from people. But this project is a little bit different because we're kind of getting into bed with whoever goes out there. And if you've got, if we're talking to someone that has a history of judgments, it's difficult. You know, where's he going to get the money to pay off that judgment, as well as the 10,000 to pay the city? So asking for financials in a case like that, I don't think is, you know, it's not precedent setting.
I would agree, Larry, if he says the last 5 years he's lost money, and he owes on a judgment, and he can't show us proof of financing, there's probably some serious concerns there. Very serious.
Yeah, it's too bad because, you know, he seems like the kind of a guy that gives you the shirt off his back.
I agree.
Back to the hotel property. Tony has 20 days to get us this information. Would you like me to start marketing that hotel property again?
Yes, yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Instead of offering it to Horseman.
The Horseman could maybe end up with this, I got a feeling. I think the total.
Well, do you believe that Horseman is actually interested in that property?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, in the well, as you referred to it, the hotel property. I've never referred to it as that.
That's what it was planned for. So that's what I think of it as. But yes, I did speak with him. He was interested in any property the city may have, or if we didn't have any, he was.
Okay.
In the interim of these 20 days, would it be of value to maybe talk to Mr. Horstman and see if he could give us an idea of what type of building?
I have a copy of the building ready. I have plans.
All over, or could we get an idea of what his plan, his overall plans are?
We could have him stake out his building as well and be specific if we don't want equipment outside there.
Yes.
Thoughts?
Are we getting ahead of ourselves? Should we first wait till we hear from Joni and then?
Try to put Horseman on the, by the
Oh, he
fairgrounds.
wants it bad enough.
Yes.
You know, he's gonna wait. And you can tell he's chomping at the bit. He's not gonna walk away, I don't think.
Yes, Laura, to what?
I think that if the hotel property is something that's a little more visible coming into town, it would be nice if we can utilize that for something that really sells Arlington, if at all possible. If we can wait those 20 days and potentially put him out by the fairgrounds, I don't see any harm in waiting.
No, with Horseman, but we can start marketing the hotel right away.
Correct.
That's what I was asking, if you're okay with me doing
As
that.
in what, June 1st, or there's that get done before that?
It might be recorded today, tomorrow.
Okay.
So this week.
Do you need a motion for this?
No.
Okay.
Just want to get your consensus on it.
Are we done with part A?
Yes.
Move on to part B, approve, deny, resolution for signage for the new vet clinic.
I would make a motion, we do approve the signage loan for the veterinarian clinic. Tim?
I'll second it. Since they worked in the building.
I just wanted to add, before it got started, that they already put their sign up. Technically, they're supposed to wait to put the sign up until after the EDA approves it. And he knew that. He told me he'd rather beg forgiveness than ask permission first. So I have the two quotes and the sign's already up.
Yeah, I drove by it today. It looks very nice.
Yep.
I'd be in favor of proceeding with it.
And then we have to do a roll call vote on this.
Correct.
It's okay, resolution number 062020. Ferguson, I'm in favor, yay. Brinkman,
Yay.
Gilman,
Yay.
Addlestead,
Yes.
Pleckle,
Yay.
Mink,
Yes.
and last, because you're the lowest alphabetically, Sorensen.
Yes.
Okay, by unanimous vote, everybody's in favor of letting them go ahead and put that sign up. Okay.
Go ahead.
Just sign the check.
As my dad would say, when you get in the car, go ahead and back up.
All right, thank you.
Okay, Matt Nelson wrote us a little letter.
A copy of the email was included in your packet. He had asked me a while ago about the city bonding to put fire suppression in over at Northland Drying. We had gotten off on the topic of Fenn Biotech. When Fenn was there, they had approached the city about financing part of that. And he says that Darren Haslip mentioned that, yes, the city could bond for fire suppression in there. It's a question, is that something you guys would recommend?
I don't think we should get into bonding for private businesses.
I agree.
And man, if we bond for anything, I think we have people that want to start a business, we need land. So I think something like that, but as far as a private business, you're gonna have everybody coming, I think. Nothing against Northland Drive, but you really open up the door.
This is Tim Kleckle. Is that fire suppression in the building that Biotech was interested in?
Northland Drying, depending on what they do in there, if they start drying anything, if they would dry hemp products from Hemp Heaven, they would need sprinklers.
Oh, so it's in their building that they remodeled.
No, there's no fire suppression in that building.
Yeah, so that's the one they're asking for the bonding for?
Correct.
Okay. I was gonna say the other building over there, Sywick is not taking care of anything. There's frozen, broken water piping and the heating system is down. It's just kind of going to heck in a handbag since.
Which one are you talking about, Tim? Are you talking about the big 60,000, 65,000 square foot
The warehouse.
warehouse?
The offices and stuff used to be.
Oh, the main part.
The main part, yeah.
That's Sywick's, correct.
Yeah, it's not, they're not watching it. It's not getting taken care of. And I know one guy that went in there to do some work because we couldn't, and then he didn't even so far get paid.
So, and we're gonna get a letter from him, and he's gonna back Tony.
Yeah.
That was my question.
I think it's the same guy we're talking about.
It is.
That's why I think Mr. Horstman will be doing in the other property.
Yeah. I would vote no for the bonding for the fire suppression at this
I
point.
also would.
Larry
comments?
Sorensen,
Yeah.
Larry Sorensen, is that a proper activity for the EDA to be considering anyway? I mean,
Yes,
we
it is.
can do bonding for something that we own, like the community center. We were the people that did the bonding for that.
Mhm.
But
You can
I
bond
wondered if-
for specific businesses. In Green Isle, the city bonded for the school.
I see. Well, I mean, I would be in favor of us trying to help them in some way, but I don't know about the bonding. I mean, maybe there are other ways that we can seek help for them. Are they asking for it? I didn't quite catch that.
They're inquiring if the city would be open to doing something like bonding to help out with that fire suppression.
So what total cost is he looking at?
I understand that fire suppression in that facility would be running between $250,000 and $700,000.
Oh,
Yeah, pretty much the same as what it was to spend by the second site. So, very expensive.
We want to buy land.
Wow.
If they would like to apply for a USDA grant, I guess I would have no problem with the city doing the grant, but we'd have to talk again about any type of matching funds.
Well, I think it would be a good idea to look at how we could possibly help them facilitate it some way. And something through the USDA. Right now, they're very pliable in terms of trying to help out because of the coronavirus. So maybe there may be programs from the USDA that are more lenient. So I think it's something we could look at.
I think it'd be worth looking into. If we can find a grant somewhere. And if it's something we can do to help without putting our necks at risk, heavily.
So how are we doing on noise complaints?
They haven't been running. So it's been
Well,
quiet.
there's been no complaints.
There's been complaints. But not noise.
Oh, okay.
Cleanup complaints, the dog died in their pond down there. There's been issues. But no noise, but I don't think they've ran for close to 2 weeks. We're still trying to get that new dryer in. So they've been shut down pretty much.
are they shut down because of the government or because of their own wishes?
From what I've been told, they're in the process of hooking up that humongous dryer that they're installing. And they are working on it.
And that'll be the quiet dryer.
That is the hope of the residents of Arlington.
Well,
I
what
would-
do we do with the bond issue?
Consensus was that we're not gonna do anything towards bonding. We will help them look at grants.
All right.
Anybody else have any other thoughts on Ring Central?
No thoughts, Tim?
No, let's move on to the CHIP or SIP or capital improvement budget. SIP.
I have sent out a capital improvement budget request to all the department heads. Since I'm the EDA department head, I sent it to myself. And I thought I would put it on the agenda to hear from the EDA, what would you like to see included in a capital improvement plan?
I think money for land. Or at least start putting some money away. And I guess to follow that up, we've never gotten an update from planning and zoning. Was gonna pick out a few spots. That's the previous planning and zoning director.
I think Michael will have a brief update on that when he does his update this evening, because it was discussed at last week's planning and zoning meeting, actually.
Not necessarily even saying 40 acres, even if we could get 15 or, I don't think we have to, just if we get something, there's businesses that want to come here.
Well, we've seen that. We have two businesses who want to come here if we can just get the details.
We need to, and as Kurt said, and I agree, and it was brought up last year at council meeting when we were doing the budget, to start putting money away in the CIP for funds for a future purchase of land. And sadly, it went nowhere.
It didn't happen, correct?
It did not happen.
Well, this
It's going to be a very hard push to get the council to go along.
The money we get from the hospital,
That's pretty much earmarked, Joey.
That's
why,
earmarked upon
That's the way it was set
earmarked.
up with the agreement from the get-go.
Well, we can change that agreement,
Okay,
but I've got other ideas where we need to use that
That can
money.
be changed, but the way it sits right now, we can't see.
okay, then
No,
I
not
heard
right
another thing, we got $89,000 in the library.
Yeah.
Which, we're never gonna use a library, in the first place, if we don't get businesses in here, we're never gonna have to have a library. We got a library that doesn't even, it fails every year. Why are we putting money away in a fund for the library? Why can't we take that money out and put it toward land use? And then when we get businesses in here, start creating some people coming in here, then, yeah, I can see library. But putting money into something that we don't need,
Ask your mayor.
well, we have to take that 89,000, the council has to act on that and take that out and put it in toward land use. I don't understand this whole issue. I have to go to the council and ask this question, it's ridiculous. We don't need a library right now.
And that's also why there's no money in there for land. I'm not arguing with you, I agree with you wholeheartedly.
Now, could, because I was at the last city council meeting, maybe Amy could explain how they're trying to come up with a ranking system. All these ideas from the department heads go in and they're gonna start ranking them moving forward. You know,
Like land on top.
Well, prioritize it.
Yeah.
Hey, this is our number one goal. So if this is our number one goal, we have to make sure the first thing we do is we fund that goal.
yeah.
That doesn't mean 4 and 3 can't change, but you don't take number 6 and override number 1. Or your most important goal and then it'll be realized.
Right.
And we're working on it. Joe and I talked about it, and actually Michael was proofing something for me today, a draft of, we have it set up that department heads put down their requests and prioritize, like, land use might be the only thing on the EDA capital improvement budget. It's the only thing we'll be asking for. That's our number one priority. But then it's gonna go to city council, and city council has to weigh economic development priority number 1 over police priority number 1, over planning and zoning priority number 1, over public works. And it's usually only a couple of things that get included into the capital improvement budget each year.
But at least now they'll have a ranking system.
And that makes sense.
And prioritize it as,
The hard part of it the last couple of years, not to get off topic, was we had a $600,000 or $700,000 radio system that had to go on the tower, street lights that should have lasted much longer. We had a lot of big ticket items that were unexpected, but had to be addressed. So the belts really had to get tightened. And sadly, I understand what you're saying.
Right, but when I hear stuff like this, it's like,
I agree that EDA should have money put aside. I was wholeheartedly in support of that. That's the way it goes. That's the way it went.
well, if you're doing what you're doing, that's great. So,
Ring Central, everybody that's online, do you have any comments?
No,
No,
No, Tim?
so do we have any
None,
requests?
Larry.
Do we have any
None
other
for
requests or is land one and only?
right now, land's the most important part.
Well, we can't do anything without land. It's hard to bring a business here without land. It's that easy.
Land, are we all agreed?
yes.
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 Okay, thank you.
we move on to number E now. Discussion on trailer park or parks. How many do we have?
We have 2. We have an official trailer park and we have an unofficial trailer park. So I'm gonna ask Michael, the planning and zoning, this had been talked about at planning and zoning. I'll let Michael take over and talk about the trailer park down by Seneca.
Not sure exactly what's needed, but long story short on it, you've all seen that there are trailers down there. They were seasonal type use, but it's zoned as industrial, light industrial. And there have been,
It's zoned heavy industrial.
is it I2? I2, okay, heavy. And there have been people, seasonal migrant workers residing there in summers. And just need to kind of, discussions have started on the planning and zoning level and brought to council just to see where to go with that and what to possibly do, enforce, or to possibly have something change about it as well, because it's deteriorating fast.
Larry Sorensen, Larry, are they owned by Seneca? Does Seneca own the land there?
Sywick owns the land. Seneca leases the trailers.
So we need to be talking to Seneca about the deterioration of.
Sywick
Because
owns those trailers.
Amy?
Yes, Laura?
At the council meeting, I believe you had mentioned that you cannot legally have people living in an area that's zoned.
I2.
I2.
Mhm.
So it's kind of a moot point. I mean, it's zoned that way. They can't be living there, correct?
Apparently, there was a handshake agreement that they could continue to have those trailers there for a certain period of years. Michael and I have looked and can't find any written documentation where the city said you could continue to have trailers in there. And we talked about it at the planning and zoning level. We'll need to do a conditional use permit or something to keep those if they want to keep trailers there.
What would be the advantage of keeping trailers there? Why would we want to do that?
At planning and zoning, and if Michael wants to speak about it, but we talked about a barrier between the I2 and the residential.
And that's kind of exactly it. Usually that is in some towns kind of toward an industrial type space, if you think of where they are. And it's just a discussion point to improve if that's something they wish to do. But really, Sywick's thinking of life after Seneca and options involved with that. And it was simply just one of a few discussed, not even proposed or action set yet, just looking to revive discussions and have something happen before conditions get worse or they do somehow have people there. But that's kind of where it went.
No, I guess I feel that it doesn't matter if it was a 2-year, 3-year, 5-year agreement. If it's against the law, then that overrides any handshake agreement.
Hasn't that agreement also expired?
We don't know because we don't know.
That's the controversy.
We don't know.
Ross said 3 years at the meeting, the mayor said 5.
But there's no proof of anything.
No, but even if there was,
well, you still doesn't override state law.
it's the law.
Yeah, our city agreement can't override state law.
Then it's the city
We could have given
liable.
them a conditional use permit or.
But we didn't.
And that was a
Because there would be a
proposal
record.
as well to put something in place because nothing previously was. And with that would be improvements to said park or trailers facilities while this previous agreement that is there or may not be there is something, just so there's actually something now written in place. Because all in all, if nothing's going to happen with the property for a year or two, it could be people in the area possibly spending money in there. I don't know, but it's just to have something with basically a deteriorating lot possibly happen, or at least get it back into people's minds to have ideas for it. It's not necessarily saying that planning and zoning is going to tell anyone they can do anything. It's just to revive conversations to get something going. That makes sense.
So are there any hazard or health issues there?
Darren would definitely say so. As for actual inspection, there might have to be something, but I'm not also saying people can or should be there. It's a matter of legally if they can and where this possible agreement is as well. But that I don't know. That Amy doesn't know. We have to find something, or if anyone knows, and Ross isn't 100% sure either.
I do know Mike Stum fairly well. He still works for Seneca, so I could call Mike and ask him the question.
Okay.
I'm assuming, Larry Sorensen, I'm assuming that Seneca puts their seasonal migrant workers from Glencoe
Correct.
into these quarters.
Correct.
There's no one there now, is there?
Correct.
No.
Well, this might be a good time for whoever, I don't know if it's an EDA thing or who it is, but the city should be at least discussing this with whoever owns the property and whoever's using it. I think there'd be an issue with saying they couldn't live there because I'm assuming that it develops quite a bit of commerce in Arlington. Maybe for plumbing and heating guys.
But here's why this is an EDA issue. One of our goals was to do something with the trailer parks, and we did a housing study a few years ago that said we need more low income and rental type units in Arlington. So the discussion on what happens with that trailer park and the main trailer park on the edge of Main Street, the EDA has to weigh in on this.
I think if we continue with residential over there next to Northland, it's a mistake. It's just a mistake.
I agree. If we were to allow residents to rent, or people to rent those buildings in Seneca to bring people here, we're gonna have to write up some rules. Or we're gonna have another trailer park, just like the other trailer park we now have. And we have too many problems there. I don't want to see another trailer park with the same issues all over again.
That's why that was on our list of goals for 2020, was to address the existing trailer park. Do we want to do something? Do we want to move it, which would require rehousing everybody that's over there? Do we want to move our trailer park? Someone and I had talked about putting it down on that 22 acres at one point, or someplace down that way. Do we want to work on closing it down, look at apartments, putting up an apartment in town here? What are your thoughts on our?
Have we talked to any developers about low-income housing, putting up something in town that's not a trailer park, but something closer to an apartment building, something like that?
I did a few years ago, but the developers were not interested because the construction costs were too high.
The only thing I know about the trailer parks down by Seneca is that over in Glencoe, husbands and wives have to live in separate units.
Yes, that's right, Howie. This is fair families. If you want to keep your family together, you live here.
Yeah, over there they got two big buildings. Men live in one, women live in the other. This one over here.
This was for families.
Families. I would say, if anything, it does bring business in our town. If they take the trailers, remodel them, fix them up, but they'd only be used for seasonal use. That would be something that way we keep people in town, but we don't want the trailer houses looking like slum districts either. But if whoever owns it, if Cywik owns it, and he wants to keep going with it, he should have to fix them up, but don't put any more in, just what they have. Just, that's it. But he has to fix them up so the people can live decent.
Cywik had approached the city about putting more in there as well. There's 7 acres out there.
Yeah, well, I think just what you have there, but fix them up if he wants to keep leasing them to Seneca. But it does bring people into town, and that's the only place they can put their husbands and wives together.
They go to the grocery stores, the gas station, the hardware store.
Yeah.
New restaurant.
They do spend money in
If
town.
he wants to keep that many trailers there, that's fine, but they have to be lived.
And it had been proposed, and then possibly once this said agreement, which he seems to know the time frame on, is up, then, there's another use for that facility, and then this does not continue, or it gets improved or something. But
does he have a copy of the said agreement?
not that we know of at this point in time, but we could call and request. But there isn't anything that I know of that he says that someone kind of another handshake type deal, but I don't know.
Handshakes don't count.
I think the city granted something.
Gotta be a registered document, right? You can't.
No, wouldn't he know who he made the agreement with? That'd be kind of.
Yeah. Someone's gotta say I made the agreement with whoever.
I mean, I would think he would know who the handshake
If
agreement.
he can't come up with it like Tony, shut it down. But I say if they can keep it going, make it look nice, but don't put no more trailers in there.
I would agree, no more.
And fix it up. Fix it up and keep the lease we sent him. Can't live there year round, because I don't think they're winter friends.
Well, they're not.
So is there a motion to make something like that, or yeah?
We don't even need a motion, just a consensus.
I'd say that's what the,
So all I'm looking for.
a conditional or an interim use permit would possibly allow that, and within the terms of the CIP would be the term that would be seasonal, or it would have to be improved with what's there.
Right.
And then in the fine print would also be a possible berm on the border of the property, which they didn't seem opposed to, as well as, instead of bringing in new units, improve what's there or replace the old ones with something new.
Right.
And all those ideas could be proposed.
I'd be fine with something like that.
Right. Because I like to have the people come.
Yeah.
What is everyone's thoughts on Ring Central?
Right, I'm in favor of that, what they just talked about.
I am in favor of it. I think a barrier of some kind would be nice. That is getting to be a real eyesore behind Northland Drying.
Larry?
I'm thinking.
Laura?
What does Ross Arneson have to say about this? I mean, maybe we should be sending a letter to whoever owns the property, and it'd be Sawick, I guess, saying there is no agreement. Your units are on, they're unauthorized at this point. We'd like to enter into a new agreement and kind of set out the parameters for what that agreement would be and what we would require. And then maybe he'll come up with the previous agreement if there was one.
I agree with that.
Ditto.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
Hey, Amy.
Yes.
So my audio cut out for a minute. I guess I'm still a little bit confused on the legal issues here. Is the basis for not being able to have residential on an area that is zoned for heavy industry? What is that based on? Is that a state law or local? What is that?
Oh, I've just always known that in I-2 you can't have people living in industrial areas.
And it's possible.
And I don't know if it's state or where that comes from.
But it's possible to override that or get around it just based on some sort of an agreement?
With an interim use permit.
Okay.
Can allow those trailers in there.
And how long, I mean, are interim use permits indefinite, or do you have to have,
an interim use permit is meant to be for usually a short period of time, 1 year.
And then they need to be renewed or passed upon.
Or they
once
go away.
again or denied.
so
They're
is this something that we're willing to renew every year? I mean, what's our end game here?
Well, that's what we're talking about.
How we
want to make them
said yes.
clean it up.
Well,
So if they
that would be
clean it up and they
the,
improve that land, then are we going to expect, we're going to have to renew this year after year after year?
Correct. They would come up for renewal. Correct.
well, if they meet the requirements that we have there, wouldn't we be gaining our objective then?
if they met our requirements, we'd have a much nicer facility there. And we'd still have people there. I was talking to Mr. Thomas one day in the hardware store, and we were discussing the trailer. And he said, why would the city chase those people out? He said they spend money on Main Street. Just put some regulations in place so they have guidelines to follow, and let them keep coming into my store and other stores supporting the community of Arlington.
I don't think I'm disputing anything about keeping families and people, patronizing local businesses. That's not my point at all. My point is more the legal issues of it. If we have residents that decided to dispute this, and we have to revisit this every single year, if they put money into improving this area, I would think that they wouldn't want to be under that kind of, I don't know, that kind of pressure that they have to be reapproved year after year after year. I would think if they're going to put money.
We lost.
If we go every 5 years.
Well, I don't know. I don't know if it necessarily means that it can only be for 1 year. If they met the conditions, couldn't it be for a longer term?
We'd have to look into it. It could be for a certain period of time.
I would think
We're not sure.
The first agreement, we'd probably want to make for a year to make sure that they are following. If we make a 10-year deal, they don't follow the rules. Yeah, we can get rid of them and what's that cost the city? So if we go with
No, I agree. I agree with that. We'd have a shorter term initially. But if they meet the conditions, I think we should be able to hold up the idea that we could make it extended for a longer period of time.
And they're probably going to want that also, knowing that if they have to spend X amount of dollars to bring it up to spec, that it's going to be for a longer duration than 12 months. I would surely think that they would want that. Some kind of an agreement in place.
No, does this kind of conflict with our philosophy? Because in the past, when we've talked about different sites for an industrial park, then we hear, oh, we're too close to residential. But then down here, we're gonna have people living in an industrial park.
In the industrial park.
In the industrial park, but that's all I've heard. No, you can't buy this land. It's too close to residents. I guess that's my issue. I mean, if they're allowed to live there, then it shouldn't matter where we buy our industrial park.
That's always been, I agree, that's been a problem.
You know, I mean, I just think you can't have two philosophies. That's always brought up. Nothing against, it was before Michael, but it was usually planning and zoning before you came. That's all we would hear. It's too close to residential. The problem in this town is it let residential grow up on commercial and industrial. So it's really hard to find a spot. So that's my 2 cents.
Well, in this case too, Kurt, I mean, the people are already there. It's not like, we're starting something new. So what do you do with the people who do reside there if we decided not to work with them?
Well, I'm not against working with them. I'm just bringing up when we're looking for industrial.
I understand.
I don't want to hear it say it's too close to residential. But that's my point.
And that'll happen. Go for a drive in another town. You'll see it. It happens at different points, and that's all. They're just discussions to kind of lead toward policy or making something happen, and also revision of the comp plan, which guides growth for the city, both economically and residentially. Another aspect of it too is just kind of putting regulations into that, but also this current, let's say current agreement is seasonal, and think of the amount of time that happens is only in Minnesota, a couple months, if any, but it's just discussions to kind of lead it toward the right direction and start to kind of build a future agreement for what we want to see in Arlington. So,
Michael, are there any, do you have contacts or, other cities that have migrant workers? Do you have, any ideas that maybe you could get some thoughts from what other towns are doing?
It's a good idea, Larry.
Yeah.
I know Montgomery's got their own trailer houses on the land, on their own land. So
That's the way this would have been, too.
Is there a capacity for those trailers, or you just pack in as many as you can? Or?
That would have to be in our rules.
that would have to be the rules.
No, but what's the normal? Is there a law with how many people that can live in a trailer? Or?
That'll guarantee, yeah.
I want to keep it here, that's the biggest thing. It's just that they have to fix it.
I have no problem against it.
But I
I
don't
just don't
want
want the conflict with future industrial
Yeah,
park.
no, I understand.
This is Tim. I do know for a fact that Seneca had drawn up blueprints and they were just about to do living quarters here in Arlington at that site where the trailers are. And then that was when everything went to hell in a handbag for Seneca. But they had blueprints out there that we were bidding for living quarters here for them rather than trailers. But I think they were separated again. There was a men's and a women's.
Laura?
Yes.
Laura?
Yes.
Were you saying something?
No, I was not.
We thought we heard a lady talking. We all are looking around. Okay.
Michael throwing his voice.
It was Michael.
yeah, whoops.
So how do you start the process? You gotta go talk to Stywick about what you're gonna do, or how you're gonna handle it, or who's gonna
It's really,
handle it?
I'd say just all the discussions between each of the committees. It's been to each meeting by now.
It's going
This
to all
is
the committees.
Kind of the last to get there and then just have a conversation where to move forward.
with council,
And I told
ultimately.
John Benke, the realtor who first asked about bringing something in, I told him that it was coming to all the different committees and they were all going to kind of hear about it. And then I report back to them on what it was, where they were welcome to attend any of these meetings and kind of just hear the feedback. So definitely be forwarding them the various minutes and
So
conversations that
Michael
were
will
had. So
summarize planning and zoning, EDA
I'd say so, yeah,
discussion and come to council.
with that. Just the conversation that's had.
And
on
see
it.
if that's the direction that council wants to go.
And I wouldn't put a deadline on it necessarily, so it's developed in process, but I'd say, yeah, within the next couple council meetings, I could have some kind of follow-up on it for sure.
Anybody else have any comments about the trailer park?
Sounds good.
Or whatever we want to call it.
What about the other trailer park?
It's still there. I can see it looking out my window.
Who owns that?
A gentleman down in, I think, St. Peter, Mankato.
Carlos, can't think of his last name.
Wasn't he supposed to do improvements at the time?
I think the issue there is finances.
I don't need that.
Correct. But still doesn't mean you don't take that.
No.
Anybody have any comments, thoughts about the existing trailer park?
How long has it been there?
A good question. I don't know.
I
Anybody
always
know?
thought it was bad. I mean, you could, some of those trailers, you could throw out your dishwater right out on a monument. I mean, the fence, you look down, there's a monument, like monument's like right there. Surprising they let them.
Larry, did Docky or Kevin, no, too, Docky owned that.
Yeah, Vic, Larry, this is Larry. Vic Dahlke owned that trailer court, and he was the kind of person that, took very good care of everything, and he lived right there across the street. After Vic died, I don't know what the history is.
I think if I remember right, the guy that was married to the Bergs, was it Bergs, Mary Bergs? They kind of watched over it for a while, but it's been kind of slowly but surely going downhill. We get calls there to deliver appliances. I don't even like to go because you can't get through doorways and you got to go over to a door that comes into the side of the trailer and there's not even a stairway by it. It's a dangerous place.
And they occasionally catch fire.
Should we continue this discussion next month?
Yes.
Good idea.
Yep.
Good idea. I agree. Okay. We'll move on to item number 10, old business. Marketing ideas?
Still, if anyone has any suggestions for marketing the city of Arlington, we have a Choose Arlington grant that has to be closed out by the end of next month. And there's some money available in there that could be used for marketing the city of Arlington. Not a lot left anymore, but enough for one ad campaign.
This might be a really good time to think about advertising in the metro area, just because with COVID, people are looking for less populated places. Also, the rents in the urban areas are astronomical and people don't want to pay $2,000 or $3,000 a month for an apartment in the city anymore. So it might be a good opportunity to look towards advertising to people who are able to work from home. A lot of white collar jobs are going to continue that even past the immediate pandemic. They're finding that that's more cost effective for them. So, you know, we might want to put that money in that direction.
So can we mark it?
Do we have any place for them to go? Do we have housing for them other than building lots?
Miller Homes just bought 10 lots. This was going to be my
Yes.
They just bought 10 lots that they're building.
Whether or not there are purchase agreements to build those homes, they're still building them.
One just received a whack and sack waiver a council meeting or two ago.
So can we market our whack and sack?
Is that what you'd like to market, just the whack
How
and
else do
sack?
you get
Or?
people out here?
Well, it's been very successful, it seems like, and I'm glad to see Miller Homes coming in here to have contractors who are willing to take some risk.
Well, there's people apparently that are willing, because I talked to Amy about this, I think at a council meeting ago. In the last year and a half or so, we've had, I think, 8 new homes when we started this whack and sack. So this program is working, because we probably, who knows what, 7, 8, 9, 10 years without building a new home? Zero. In 18 months, we put up 8 new ones, now they sell 10 more lots. So obviously, this program is working very well.
A lot of people are coming from Shakopee, Laconia. Al Schiller's house was sold to a young couple.
So we need to market towards that Shakopee, Waconia area.
That 212 corridor.
That
if you ask me.
212, yeah.
That'd be a good place to market the whack
Do
and
we
sack.
want to market the whack and sack, which is geared more towards developers? Or do we want to market towards families or it's single people, families or single people to get them to move out here?
Yeah, I like to have whack and sack.
Well, it would appear like we have, this Larry, it appears like we do have contractors who are willing to build, so maybe we should be targeting the
People
family.
to move. Mhm.
People, yes.
Yeah, because it doesn't appear they're having any problem selling the homes. once they're-
No, once they get them going.
Even older homes, every 5 days.
Stuff's moving right now.
Things are moving fast. Maybe you should give that whack and sack to people that are selling their home.
Here's money, move out.
Yeah.
So would you like Michael and I to work on an ad and get an ad out there towards the metro area?
I think that'd be good.
Yes, do you need a motion?
No, we do not need a motion for this, but I will take suggestions on where to market.
I think Laura was right, you know, in cities.
City pages?
Waconia, cover up in there.
I think we have to get some prices first.
Anywhere to the east of us, all the way to the metro.
Yeah.
See what's in our budget and what we can.
Yeah, what we can afford.
We don't have a lot of money left, so.
I
Well,
would
like,
think,
Waconia and Shakopee have shoppers, have a lot of areas.
Okay. Maybe you could help with that?
Yeah.
Does anybody know of any free places we could be advertising towards the metro? No?
None that I know of.
Okay. I just don't want to miss any opportunities. We do our own Facebook advertising, but it's a matter of reaching, unless they're following the city of Arlington, they're not going to see what we put on Facebook. Yeah, we're always going to put it on our Facebook too, but. Okay.
Okay, are we done with marketing ideas?
Sounds like it.
I think so.
Move on to 1 million cups.
I did speak to the people at 1 Million Cups that if it is COVID-19 situation where it would be electronic meeting by Zoom or something, that Arlington was not interested in posting it if it's going to be by Zoom. And you can see Gary, I included his email response, why we should still do it. What are your thoughts?
Electronically? No. This right here.
So Gary made it sound supposedly like even though they were having some by the other method, that he thought they were still going okay.
Well, it looks like he wants us to join a Zoom meeting and see what it's all about.
I think one reason to have it was to get people to come into our town and see our community center. And by having a Zoom meeting,
Not gonna happen.
people haven't been here before. They're not gonna know anything about Arlington with the Zoom.
So they're still thinking October, this is gonna be going on.
This will be going on next year.
Can we get it again? Like
Yeah, I could try to
2020?
do it in 2020 or 2021. It is 2020.
I think the other, it should really be updated, I think 80, because that is extra work. Are you gonna have, do you have time to do a Zoom? I mean, that's so. Do you have other priorities?
I don't know.
I just,
That's my opinion.
How about the online consensus? The consensus in here is if it's Zoom, no.
Yeah, I'm not having much fun with the ring meetings.
Anybody else online? What are your thoughts?
I ditto Dean's concerns.
Larry and Laura?
Yeah, I think Zoom for this sort of thing is probably not the best platform.
Right, they wouldn't experience our community center or our community.
Right.
Okay, we'll stick with our decision.
No, I agree. I'm doing Blue Jeans, Wavelo, Zoom. I don't know how many other
Applications, yeah.
applications. Ring Central. I'm not too fond of them.
Any of them? It's not the same.
Nope.
No. I don't know how, I'm not sure how it would benefit us. I just, I didn't.
Right, because it would just be
I
yeah,
didn't handle on it.
it would,
Maybe just an exercise.
right. It would be myself here on Zoom and probably Michael and one or two of you guys, maybe. Oh, yeah, okay. All right, I think I have my orders on that.
Okay, let's move on. Anything new on planning and zoning, Michael, or have we covered that already?
I'll cover a couple things. One thing that's really important is we just had good discussions about rezoning of the nickel property from the possibility to have light industrial up there. Whether it's Sony or someone else, there was good discussions were had about that.
You had a public hearing, correct?
Yeah, and there wasn't anyone opposed to it in attendance. It was quiet like it was today, but there were good discussions had, regardless of it being Tony as the main person or other light industrial type services or companies coming there. And it would serve as a good buffer on that edge too. Not thinking more residential, as that could be problems with the racetrack as it already kind of is at times. Going on to, I started putting EDA minutes in our packets, so then we can have that communication open between all the different committees, which is going really well, positive feedback. And they liked hearing about what we're doing, just like you like hearing about what planning and zoning is doing. And then I bring it on to council as well to try and be active with that. And I think it's going really well, especially as we're moving conversations along.
I think communication with planning and zoning much improved over past years. I've been attending the planning and zoning meetings. I answer questions there. It's just communication.
A major
We needed communication between these committees.
And big update since this is for you, our big update on the sign ordinance, the misinterpretation of the verbiage. So there can be hanging signs. I'm sure you got that, but finding things out. And we've been talking about the industrial park, reviving the old conversations and then building upon them to see where to go. And our general consensus was land as well. So that's kind of an important thing to consider. And then we're just looking at where to go and how to go about it and bringing those conversations onto the different committees. And then I bring the feedback back to them, which is good. And then bringing on the old conversations word for word, and Jen did a good job summarizing all those old conversations about those sites. Do you have anything?
So is there a deadline? Because this has been going on for, when was it given the planning and zoning?
The CIP is what it's going to be. We're going to get it. That's our joint thing that we're going to try and do to get it to that, to get conversations going. Otherwise, it's just wasted time. So our purpose is we're trying to get the comprehensive plan going to get these conversations in there to bring other conversations forward. It's not just going in circles about it. So I'm trying to get it moved forward as much as I can, but if it dies, it dies, and then just trying to find other things to do. Then we just discussed the rezoning of a different lot, Arlington Meadows, Cywick up there. It was multifamily residential, and then he's thinking of putting in more singular homes up there. And however he goes about it with this process is we'll take it as it comes, and it's up to him because it is his property. He took that over. So I'll keep you all updated on that. And then really just looking at the comp plan and getting updates done to that, because it really steers the city, it steers council, it steers all of our different committees in said direction. And I told planning and zoning to, hey guys, we need help because we start the conversations and then we carry on different committees to get things going. So that's it.
All right.
Did you want to talk about orderly annexation, just to touch on it?
And then that topic came up as well. There's great conversations on that. I'm working with the townships in the area to possibly annex in land or get conversations with that. And there was possibility of a older agreement that was in place or maybe soon expiring. So I'm going to work with Ross to see where that is and work on orderly annexation to possibly acquire land, possibly from a township or wherever, to find various land. I don't know, elaborate upon that as I do more research. So
Sounds positive, that's good.
that's it.
All right. Anything from the EDA director?
I just wanted to update on the 10 housing lots that were sold recently in the new Whack and Sack. It's Miller Homes that's building. They purchased some of that Sefter land, Sefter property.
Is there a plot plan of that yet, or which lots they purchased, or?
Yes, you do know.
So they purchased 10 of how many are available out there?
A lot.
There's a lot left, yeah.
I'd say probably about a third of it, maybe.
But they do have plans to start.
Are any of the lots that they purchased suitable for like twin homes or townhomes or something like that?
It could. Some of them up there were already, but I don't know.
I think those are
I'd say
all
it's all
single
more
family.
so single family.
Those are all single family. You want a house yet, don't you, Larry?
Mhm.
No, I don't. I want something less than 3,200 square feet.
They had an excavator over there already.
Yeah, they're starting
Parts out
Miller
there.
Homes.
Wow.
Mhm.
You can probably get a trailer house, a used trailer house.
I've thought of that, Dean. That's a good idea. I've thought of actually maybe moving over where the migrant workers are. But I do know, I do know Doug,
There's a million of them riding bikes in the street.
I know Doug Miller, or at least I did a lot of business with his father, so I do intend to contact him and see what his ideas are.
There you go. Talk them into building.
If you're ever curious,
Townhomes.
all of it's drawn out in the land use map. They have the whole development drawn out already. So it's been in there since I've seen it. But
Could you repeat that, Michael? I didn't understand that.
the whole development is already drawn out on the land use map for the city of Arlington. Hopefully we can have you all in chambers and I could have been pointing at it, but it's that area up there is drawn out already in the land use map. So all the different plots. And I'd say probably a good third of them just sold.
Uh-huh.
Part of it doesn't have a road out there yet, but it's drawn in the land use and comp plan.
For the second
For that
phase,
development,
there's a
yeah.
plan for a second phase. The city would have to bring in infrastructure.
Could we have a picture of that at our next packet?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that
Good
is,
idea.
yeah, we can do that.
Sounds good.
Good.
All right.
Mr. Chairman, I have a question for Amy.
Hmm.
Did we get an email today about a newspaper article? Was there some discussion on that?
Laura?
Yeah, I was just gonna bring up.
Yeah, the reason I sent that to Amy was because Sibley County is getting some press in the metro area, and it's not necessarily positive, and it's related to the COVID response out here. And I felt if we are going to do some advertising in that direction, we're going to want to be mindful of what our response is. People are going to be looking for places they perceive to be safe moving forward. This whole virus situation isn't something that's going away anytime soon. It's going to be kind of a rolling situation. And we are going to want to be very careful about how we're responding to this and how people outside of this area are perceiving our response.
Well, I'm not sure what the sheriff's idea is, but some people wouldn't take that as a negative.
No, but that's what I'm saying. People outside of this community. Did you read the article? It was portrayed more as a potential threat to the metro area than anything else.
Well, I'm sorry to say it, but I don't believe anything that I read in the Minneapolis Tribune.
Yeah, but a lot of the people that we're trying to attract out here do. I guess that's my point.
I think maybe the bigger point is what the county commissioners do tomorrow, because there is a resolution on their agenda to whether or not send a letter to the governor to start reopening So that'll be really interesting how they vote on that, whether it passes or fails.
Well, I think there are initiatives on that, and maybe the biggest one is the idea of holding up the bonding bill until there's more opening of businesses, but it's a tough issue. It's so tough, nobody wants to talk about it.
Well, it is kind of interesting if they do vote it down and they keep the courthouse closed, but then visitors can go in the sheriff's department and they're both county. I don't know, I just think tomorrow's meeting will be really interesting. And see how they vote.
I would agree.
And even if they do vote in favor, I know there's a letter from Sibley County weigh that much with the governor. I mean, he's getting hundreds of letters
daily.
Now the State Baseball Association is sending him a letter to let him play baseball, and he's getting hundreds of letters. So I don't know.
He's getting a lot of political pressure to open up.
But I'm just saying, what does one letter from?
It means nothing.
Sibley County is not gonna sway him one way or the other because he's just, you know.
I think you're right, Kurt. I don't think it's going to make any difference at all.
I think the way I gather it, if they do pass it, it'll show the residents in Sibley County that the county commissioners are going to bat for the businesses. I think that's the big thing behind it. But it's tough. You know, there's businesses in Arlington that can't open, but the candy store by Jordan can.
Yeah. It's hard on the mom and pop type business because the big box stores can keep right on going. So, and that's the kind of thing that we talked about as an EDA, is how we can help our local business going forward. And it's a situation that's difficult.
And nobody agrees.
Yeah.
Everybody has their own opinion.
I wouldn't want to be governor. I wouldn't want to be governor.
I would let my legislature and my Senate make those decisions. That's what I would do. That's what they're there for.
Yeah, but it's gridlock. One's controlled by the Democrats.
Well, today the Republicans passed a bill to open it.
So
tomorrow it'll be sent to the Republic or the Democrats' house.
Well, the Senate has already voted to stop
today again.
Yeah, but the House is not going to go along with that because they're the same party as the governor, and they're going to do whatever he wants.
Correct.
So the only leverage is the bonding. The only leverage is the bonding bill, and I'm not. I don't know what'll happen with that.
Well, one thing I'm sure Pat Nienauer didn't want to make the front page of the Tribune. So.
Is it on the front page?
Well, I'm not sure what.
No.
It was not.
I think it was in the Minnesota section.
Yeah.
Okay.
On the front page of that one. Anyway. Okay, is there anything else, or we don't need?
If there's nothing else, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
Before you make the motion, this is probably my last EDA meeting. So I just want to tell everybody I truly enjoyed working with you all for the last 6 years. I really, really did. I wish I could stay on here, but I guess that doesn't work, so I just want to say thanks for 6 good years.
Thank you.
Well, it's been a pleasure working with you.
You could always come
Thank-
to the next meeting.
Thank you, Tom. Thank you, Tom, for all your input. Remember, you can still have lots of input as a
These are
citizen.
open meetings, you can attend.
Yes.
There you go. I just may do
You
that.
just won't be paid, but.
And in 1 year from now, if there's an opening, I hope I can get back on, but it's gonna take a year. That's the rules.
Sounds good. Thank you. And my wife says make a motion to adjourn. She wants to use the computer.
I'll second that, Jane.
Oh, hallelujah.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Bye.
All those opposed, turn your phone off.
Aye and goodbye.
Bye. Bye. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, guys.
It's adjourned now, I turn them off.
So why can't you be on the city?
Because I am a council appointee.
Mm-hmm.
So once I'm off, a new person will be put on here from the council.
You hit record.
And I believe that I understand that
It's not
I have to be
recording
off
on
for 1 year.
Well, why do we have?
They record almost started.